Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome today to a brief review of yet another retro reissue Casio. It seems that if the pressure is on a Friday afternoon, the design teams of pretty much every watch brand that's over 50 years old have exactly the same thought. I've got it! Let's launch another retro reissue from our back catalogue. Yeah. Whew, that's all our jobs safe for at least another 7 days. High fives all round indeed. Now Casio are far from the only ones doing it, but over the last couple of years I have looked at a fairly large number of new but old watches from them. However, if like me you enjoy their older stuff and indeed can remember some of it the first time round, it's not actually a problem, is it? Today on my wrist I have the old but new LF20W, a mild retouching of the AF20W from the 80s. Now this watch is pretty hot at the moment. Many retailers here in Australia are entirely sold out, but I know a man who grabbed one before they all vanished. Alex from Sydney, who works for one of the local broadcasters here in Australia, he sent me an email, got in touch a couple of weeks ago and offered me his shiny white LF20 for review. Thank you very much, Alex. And like so many of these old but new Casio reissues, this one has a few more features than the original. Let's flip the camera and have a look at them. Alright, simple watch, quickie review. What's in the box? Well, why don't I give you my interpretation, my answer to that question with the aid of this handy graphic? Well, if you took the spirit of a Casio F91W, the form factor of a Casio CA53W, but the module of a Casio AE1200, and combine them all into one watch, you would pretty much end up with the Casio LF20W. Now, I say the spirit of the F91W because it's durable, it's affordable, and it has a fairly crappy light in the corner. It wears not identically to, but quite similarly to a CA53W, and it has the full Casio World Time feature set, just like an AE1200. And thanks to slightly reserved graphics and a slightly muted colour palette, dare I say it, it has a little bit of sophistication to it as well. There are, however, limits I appreciate to how sophisticated any Casio is ever going to get, but yeah, I think you'll see what I mean. You do have to be into their smaller watches though if you want to get yourself into one of these, because it is not big by any stretch of the imagination. Not including the pushers, but at its widest point I measure it at 33mm in diameter. A mere 8.5mm thick with a 37.8mm lug to lug. Now, lug width, not really applicable. You're not going to be taking this one off the resin band. It's just not economically viable. Plus, 16mm lug width does not help anybody in that regard. Water resistance, that means 30 meters of water resistance. Covering the dial there, we have a piece of acrylic crystal and a module 3551 resides behind the case back. And there you are, if you weren't already aware, if you ever want to know what module your Casio contains, it's always in a little rectangular box there. 3551. Stainless steel screw-on case back, one screw in each corner as you can see. WR water resistant, only 30 meters. Rain shower, doing the dishes, that type of thing, but I wouldn't take this one swimming. Having said that, the F91W is only water resistant and there are videos of it diving to reasonable depths, but you do so at your own risk, put it that way. Case and band, not made of resin today, they are in fact made of bioplastic. Casio doing its bit for the environment. It's a more environmentally friendly material, though as you can see, there's a bit of a colour mismatch between the case and the bracelet. That is definitely more creamy and that is a little bit green coloured. Yeah, they could have done better there, I think. But the fun really begins with this one when you look at the display. Now the original was called a twin graph, i.e. dual time, so you have the home time there displayed in digital format, and you've got a kind of ani-digi analog representation. Not massively easy to read though, I will admit. You've got this count up, count down, it counts up in blocks of 10 seconds and then counts down in blocks of 10 seconds. It's really there to provide visual interest and not much else. And below that you have the day of the week and the date and the month of the year. If you press the top left, in case you forget what city you're in, it reminds you that I am in fact in Sydney while I'm recording this video. So much like the AE1200, if you press the bottom right button, you cycle through a preset selection of 4 time zones. I guess these are the most commonly used 4 time zones: your home, plus New York City, plus London, plus Paris. That's the kind of standard ones that it leaves the factory with. If you press bottom left, it cycles through the full world time feature, so 31 time zones and 48 different world cities, all of which can be set to be in those 4 quick set ones. One more push of the bottom left pusher and you have 5 alarms. One more push, there's a countdown timer. One further push and it's a stopwatch, and it does laps. It does all of that good stuff here and is capable of measuring down to 1/100th of a second, so that is 3.36 seconds. Top left button to reset, and then back to the home time. You'll note that when using any of those features, any of the world time features, the stopwatch, the alarms, etc., the home time is always displayed in analog format on that large square top left, which is a nice feature. If you press and hold the bottom left button for 3 or 4 seconds, you can set the button tone on and off. I just switched it off there. Let me switch it back on. There we are, it's back on. If you hold the bottom right button down for 3 or 4 seconds, you can set the watch to automatically cycle through its 4 selected time zones until you press another button. Again, the home time is always displayed in the large ANI digital display in top left. I can't for the life of me work out why anyone would actually find this feature useful though. One more push of anything and it goes back to the regular time. So you have all of the features of the legendary AE1200, but in a much more svelte and sophisticated package. And as you saw and heard when we discussed dimensions earlier on, it's not a big watch. 22 grams as well makes it one of the lightest watches I have ever reviewed on the channel. Everything else sub 40 has also been a digital watch by Casio. I quite like this size. I've had a couple of 53s and I own various small Casios, but it's not going to be for everyone, I appreciate. I've got a 7-inch wrist for your reference. Don't be put off by the diameter dimension of 33. Because it's a square case, they always wear a bit larger. It's kind of like a 36 case round watch, which I still admit is not particularly large, but it's not as frighteningly small as 33mm sounds. So fun and feature packed it may be, but I'm still going to complain about a few things. As has been noted elsewhere, and as you may well have noted yourself over the course of the video, the screen is not the brightest from certain angles. There you go. That looks almost like my battery is on the way out and needs replacing. Batteries in these will last 3 years depending on how often you press the backlight. Plus or minus 30 seconds per month accuracy, by the way. So yeah, perhaps not the clearest, and there's a lot of real estate here, but it's still not all that easy to read the time. The ANI Digi hands are desperately thin, and that is a really small numerical display. My W217H, for example, has a much smaller LCD screen, but much larger numerals. Now, unlike the CA53, which features no illumination whatsoever, this watch does at least feature a single amber LED in the bottom corner, but there's a lot of dial here and not a lot of light. I think it would have done much better with a single LED in each of the 2 bottom corners, and I would personally have traded off a bit of battery life for that. And if I want to buy one of these at the moment, it's going to cost me 99 Aussie dollars. That's twice the price of a CA53 and twice the price of an AE1200. I don't think this watch is worth twice the price of those other 2. My regular Spanish dealer where I pick up a lot of Casios, they have them for $51, but they are currently out of stock. I will probably pick one of these up, to be honest, but I will wait till they are back in stock rather than stump up 99 Aussie pesos for one of these. And let's pop up the side-by-side comparison between this new LF20 and the original AF20. Well, they've certainly removed most traces of the 1980s from the new watch, haven't they? And if we look again at all the currently available colour versions, definitely more modern, definitely more sophisticated, but arguably a slightly boring colour palette, isn't it? Had they removed some of the fun of the original by making it less 1980s and more 2020s? Yeah, probably. But not everyone is into the tacky 1980s look like I am, so I totally understand the decision to go slightly more reserved with this reissue, and I'm sure they've sold more of them as a consequence of going slightly more reserved. Perhaps for us 80s kids they could do a bright yellow or a bright red version, and let's be honest, if we want tacky graphics on our Casios, we're not short of options from their current catalogue. But overall, I like it. It's a fun, wearable and soon-to-be affordable little thing that retains some of the charm of the original watch while adding a whole bunch of new features. But come on Casio, how's about a few genuinely new models over the rest of 2023 please? So there you have it. It's not going to set the world alight this one, but if you have been craving the features of an AE1200 with the size and the lightness of an F91W, you will really enjoy this watch. Thanks again to Alex. I hope that you enjoy this watch once I post it back to you, mate. If you are into Casio retro reissues, which clearly you are to make it all the way to the end of this video, click here or click here to watch more of them. Thanks for watching this one. I'll see you again in the future.